If you can give us 7 minutes or less, we'll explain why we need the model laws. There are many well-meaning, well-intentioned providers in the continuing care retirement community industry, and many of them question why there is a need for more laws and more regulation. Here's how we see it from the resident's perspective. It's true that there is a tendency for there to be counterproductive, reactive, micromanaging regulation of the health and safety aspects of CCRCs, and that can undermine effective performance. It's also true that there are almost no uniform standards or regulations governing the contractual and financial aspects. And while there are many good people in the industry, the good people have tolerated those who discriminate against the very people whom CCRCs exist to serve. The temptation is great to rationalize contracts and financial practices that can be seen as exploitative of vulnerable elderly people. There is a clear and compelling need to restore a reasonable balance between the interests of the industry's executives and the interests of the residents and others whom the industry serves. One observation puts the above into perspective. Few among the well-meaning, nice, community-minded people who serve on CCRC boards are willing themselves to live in the CCRCs that they oversee and serve until and unless they reach a stage in life at which they see no alternative. That reluctance of these people who know the industry best to trust it with their own savings and their own well-being is perhaps the most compelling evidence pointing to a need for change. And that brings us to what makes the need for the model laws so compelling. 4 elements make the point. First, contracts. Here is an actual sentence from a contract that a resident was required to sign by a provider. Quote, "I understand and agree that at any time, and from time to time, all without notice to me, and without affecting your rights or my obligations hereunder, you may alter any terms of the residence agreement or any part of it, including renewing, compromising, extending, or accelerating, or otherwise changing the time for payment of amounts due thereunder." End quote. In this actual case, the provider would permit no changes since the contract had been approved by the state regulator. And the state regulator said that there was no choice since there was nothing contrary to statute. There is a clear and compelling need for contract regulation. Second, bankruptcy risk. Insurance policyholders are shielded from loss in the event the insurance company fails. For insurance, this protection is at the state level. Bank depositors are similarly protected by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. CCRC residents, who often invest their life savings in entrance fee contracts, are in most cases no more than general creditors, and their entrance fees are used to shield the passive debt investors from loss. There is a clear and compelling need for guarantee legislation. Third, believable promises. Insurance companies are required to establish reserves to ensure that the contractual promises that they make are backed by adequate financial resources. CCRC generally accepted accounting requires no matching of contract consideration to the contract promises funded thereby. There is a clear and compelling need for financial regulation. Fourth, the disclosure requirements that protect investors from meaningless blue sky offerings are not required of providers who offer entrance fee investment continuing care contracts, even though such contracts frequently consume the bulk of an elderly person's lifetime savings. Some entering residents can be vulnerable and gullible with age, and there is a public interest in protecting them from exploitation. There is a clear and compelling need to recognize that investing an entrance fee in a continuing care contract is a security investment and should be regulated as such. The model laws are not radical. They are common sense applications of existing legislative protections to shield the vulnerable residents of CCRCs from the potential for exploitation, intentional or otherwise. We need the model laws.